Fallout 4 has 70 plus perks in the base game. There are many videos that talk about which ones the player should unlock first, which ones to avoid, and which to work towards. In all of these videos, they talk about how the perks are, rather than what they could or should be. Well, I want to have that conversation though. I want to look at all the perks of Fallout 4 and analyze if they are actually good perks in the context of a well-made game. So, let's do that. Of course, let's have some fun with it and do the YouTube classic, a tier list. When we ask about what makes a good perk, for me, I imagine that every perk you unlock will help accomplish a handful of things. Firstly, a perk should help the player flesh out who their character is. Unlocking a perk should be personal to the player, and at the end of the game, the player should look at their character and the perks that they have unlocked and see a congruence within them. If you are playing a cowboy, you should be unlocking perks that allow you to draw your weapon quicker. A tech genius should be able to unlock perks that allow them to hack robots. A spy should have perks that make them silent as they run. That's what I mean by congruence. Secondly, a perk should change the way a player plays the game, not in a small way either. Each perk should make the gameplay dramatically different. The gameplay should mold around the player's choices, not the other way around. So, what happens when you take these ideas and apply them to Fallout 4? Well, if we look at the perks of Fallout 4 through this lens, pretty much every perk in the game is a C tier at best. That's why we have to adjust our scale a bit. I'm going to concede that I don't think that there are any good perks in Fallout 4, but there are some really good ideas. With a little bit of work on what Fallout 4 already has, we can make some good perks. This will reflect in the tiers that we end up putting them in. But there is one last thing we need to talk about before we talk about the tiers of our tier list. The last thing we need to talk about are the 3 basic categories of perks that can be found within Fallout 4. That being 1. Perks that should have just been skills, 2. Perks that just unlock crafting, and 3. Perks that are actually perks. In Fallout 4, Bethesda removed skills, replacing them with a handful of perks that basically do the same thing in a much clunkier way. These are perks that are just simple damage increases for specific kinds of weapons, such as the perk Iron Fist replacing the unarmed skill, or Big Leagues replacing the melee skill. Or they are perks that just give a flat buff to whatever you're doing, such as Pickpocketer replacing the pickpocketing skill of Skyrim, or Locksmith replacing the lockpick skill. Fallout 4 is crammed full of these kinds of perks, and honestly, they should all have been cut and replaced with a solid skill system. For the sake of this video, we will put these in their own tier. The Just a Skill tier, when they come up. Another major issue with the Fallout 4 perk systems are all the perks that simply unlock the ability to customize your gear. There are much better ways to lock and unlock gear customization to keep the game well paced other than by simply locking them behind a perk. Most people are going to want to modify and customize their gear in the first place, so most people will be getting these perks. Honestly, these perks shine a light on a much greater issue within Fallout 4, but for the sake of this video, we will just put these perks in the Cut tier. Some examples of these perks would be the Armorer perk or the Gun Nut perk. In the future, I do intend to adjust these perks specifically in a video about the poor balance of Fallout 4, so keep an eye out for that. Because of the first 2 categories, the third suffers greatly by being reduced in scope and power, requiring multiple levels and perk points for any of them to actually be worthwhile. Personally, I think that this is due to the skills being replaced by perks, having to increase the granularity of perks to try and find a middle ground between skills and the perks of better RPGs. Because of this, the third category will be treated as if it's the max level of the perk with all unlocks. To me, this is how the perks would have been written if there was still a skill system in the game, and of course, a level cap. For the different tiers in our list, let's go from bottom up. At the bottom we have the Cut tier, Above that is just a skill tier. These are the ones we already talked about. Above those we have F tier, reserved for perks that have no redeeming qualities, that are the worst of the worst. Above that, C tier, for perks that, with a lot of work, could be a great perk. Then B tier, for perks that with some work would be a good perk. A tier will be for perks that require very little work to make a good perk. And finally, S tier, saved for those perks that when fully unlocked, actually are good perks. Just in case Fallout 4 actually has any of those. A lot of preamble in this one, isn't there? I see why I've taken so long to make this. Fallout 5 will be out before I even get through half the things I want to talk about with Fallout 4. Alrighty, let's get started. If you would like to follow along with me as we go through these, I'm using the perk list found at fallout.wiki, the independent Fallout wiki. So let's get going with the strength perks. Iron Fist. Iron Fist is basically the replacement for the unarmed skill. This is an easy, just a skill tier. Big Leagues. Big Leagues is another easy, just a skill tier, replacing the melee skill of Fallout New Vegas. Armorer. Armorer is the first example of a perk that simply unlocks player customization, straight to the cut tier. Blacksmith. Our next example of a perk that simply unlocks player customization, another cut tier perk. Man, strength really got the raw end of this, didn't it? Heavy Gunner. A simple linear damage increase perk that replaced the heavy guns skill. A skill that was in Fallout 3, but got condensed into the guns skill in Fallout New Vegas. Another, just a skill tier. Strong Back. The Strong Back perk is the first example of a perk that is on the border of being a good idea, but just isn't quite there. When fully unlocked, the player will get plus 50 carry weight, the ability to fast travel while encumbered, and being able to run longer. The only issue I actually have with this one is that it just feels like how the strength special attribute should already work. To me, a 10 in strength should be what gives you this, not a separate perk. I'm putting this one in C tier. I do think there is something redeemable about this one, just not by much. Maybe a high F tier. Steady Aim. Steady Aim gives you improved hip fire accuracy and damage with guns. Again, this just feels like what strength should be doing, doesn't it? Minus the random damage increase, I do think that as your character's strength increases, the weapon should be steadier. I feel like I'm going crazy when I say these things. F tier. Basher. A simple damage increase perk that... Wait a minute. Is this just the melee skill again? Did they really split the melee skill into two perks? Well, obviously this should have been a skill tier. Rooted. Rooted is actually a pretty cool perk. You gain plus 50 damage resistance and do 50% more damage with both melee and unarmed, as well as getting a chance to disarm your enemies that use melee weapons against you. The catch is that you have to be standing still to gain these buffs. The idea of this one is really great. I actually think this is a great idea and adds a ton of flavor to your character. Let's say B tier. Pain Train. Another fun idea for a perk, Pain Train will make it so that in power armor you can tackle your enemies and knock them to the ground. It's really fun to use and you can do massive amounts of damage with it. Although I do like the idea, this perk is useless if you do not use power armor. It's also a little gimmicky, and I can't see someone using it in a serious situation. More of a fuck around perk. Fun idea, but not a strong perk. Putting it in C tier. Alright, this is an interlude. So, I wanted to talk about a bit about why I'm actually making this video. So for a long time, I've actually been working on a mod called Fallout New Austin. I don't know if you've ever heard it because I haven't really done a good job in sharing that news, but I actually wanted to make sure that I actually understood the things that I didn't like about Fallout 4 in order so in order to change those things. So I'm spending a lot of time kind of analyzing Fallout 4, and while doing that, I figured, hey, these might actually do well for videos. So that's kind of what I'm doing here with this first one. Now, this one is just a ranking video, but in the future, I actually plan on going through each of the perks and describing different ways that I would change them, and how they're going to look in Fallout New Austin. So if that's something that's interesting to you, or something that you are interested in, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and stick around. Hopefully with the next few videos and videos in the future, you'll be able to see more Fallout New Austin stuff, and more stuff like this. Alright, end of interlude. Pickpocket. Just from its name, you know this one is going into the should have been a skill tier. Just a sad replacement to the skill system. Next, Rifleman. Rifleman is an interesting situation. On paper, this one has the same feeling as the other should have been a skill tier, except that it's specific to rifles. There was never a specific rifle skill, but maybe there should have been. Should have been a skill tier. Awareness. Awareness was originally a single-tiered perk that let the player see the damage resistance of enemies in VATS. The Nuka World DLC added a second tier to that, just adds a 5% damage and hit chance increase while in VATS. The Nuka World DLC added a second tier to it that just adds a 5% damage and hit chance increase while in VATS. There isn't much to say about this one. A good perk to have, but in the current system, I don't know if it's worth unlocking. C tier. Locksmith. Locksmith is an easy, should have been a skill tier perk. Nothing else to really say. Demolition Expert. Hey, look at that, a should have been a skill tier perk that also unlocks some recipes. Honestly, getting tired of how many of these are just old skills. Night Person. With Night Person, between the hours of 6 PM and 6 AM, you gain +3 intelligence and perception, 30 extra health, and night vision while sneaking. Now that's an interesting idea for a perk. There are some easy changes that I can think of that would make it even better, but I really love the theming on this one. I'm going to say A tier. Refractor. Refractor just gives you more and more energy's resistance. That sucks so much since this idea could have been really, really cool. Maybe offering different interactions based on what kind of energy weapons are being used against you. Lasers reflecting off you, plasma splashing against you, electricity arcing to your enemies. Sadly, we just get a boring, linear damage increased. So boring. F tier. Sniper. Another perk that just pulls great ideas from my head. As of now, Sniper gives you an improved breath control while scoped, a knockdown chance from non-auto rifles, and a 25% accuracy bonus to headshots and VATS. This feels like a waste of a perk idea. It can be taken so much further than this. C tier. Penetrator. Penetrator is a very useful utility perk, allowing the player to target enemies that are blocked by cover. It's also just a pretty cool idea. I do think that this might be better served as part of a weapon though. Still, a good perk. B tier. Concentrated Fire. Concentrated Fire is a very useful perk for those working with a VATS build. For every consecutive attack on the same body part, you get a +20% accuracy and damage bonus. This is actually incredibly powerful if you are using a weapon that doesn't cost a whole lot of AP in VATS. To me, this gives the idea of a gunslinger, shooting as quickly as possible but getting more accurate the longer they are shooting. It's a very cool perk that offers flavor despite being a simple boost. I think it could be fleshed out a bit, so we'll say B tier. Whew, oh man, Perception really did not have that many good perks, did it? I mean, neither did Strength, and neither does Fallout 4 in general, but you know, Perception just seems to have a lot of bad ones. Anyways, this is our second interlude, and I hope you've been enjoying the video so far, and if you have, you know, do that whole liking thing. You don't even have to subscribe, just like the video, and that would be awesome. Because if I can get everyone to like the video that actually watches the video, then more people would actually see my videos. I know, crazy how that works. So please, do me a solid, like the video. Alright, back to the video. Toughness. This is just a nothing perk that gives the player plus 50 damage resistance. F tier. Lead Belly. Lead Belly allows you to eat and drink anything radioactive. A very useful perk on survival playthroughs. I do think this could be a good one with the same kind of tweaking I would do for all the others. As it is now, it can be seen as a bit overpowered if food was worthwhile in this game, but it's more of a chore than anything else. I'm thinking C tier. Life Giver. Life Giver just adds 20 to your health and allows for your health to regenerate. Such a garbage perk when you consider that you get around 5 HP per level. Each level of this perk is cumulative though, so you are getting 60 at level 3. I still don't think this is worthwhile since the player has an infinite amount of levels, therefore allowing for infinite amounts of health. Just think it's a worthless perk. F tier. Chem Resistant. At its highest level, Chem Resistant gives the player complete immunity from chem addiction. I'm a little torn on this one, since there are clear and obvious ways that I would make it better, but it also just doesn't have a lot going on. I think C tier? Maybe F tier. Aqua Boy and Aqua Girl. This is similar to the other endurance perks, but this one is for swimming in the water. At its highest level, you have no radiation damage, can breathe underwater, and are totally undetectable while in water. This is a very powerful perk. Just because it's powerful doesn't mean it's good though. It doesn't do a ton, and there aren't a lot of times that the player will actually be in water in Fallout 4. Let's go with B tier. Rad Resistant. Another boring, linear buff perk. Boring, F tier. Adamantian Skeleton. Man, with these perks I should have really added another category. These would be so easy to make better by simply tying the perk to increase as your endurance does, rather than having multiple levels of this perk. Adamantian gets C tier. Cannibal. With the Cannibal perk at max level you can eat humans, supermutants, and ghouls. An absolute classic perk that is even more interesting on hardcore. Why not give it an S tier? Ghoulish. With Ghoulish, you actually gain some health as you gain radiation, and at its max level, your radiation will go away over time, while also healing you. Lots of flavor with this one, and it's a fun idea that fleshes out the world a bit. I do wish the game kinda ghoulified you as your rads go up, or you start to glow or something, but even without that, this is still an A tier perk. Solar Powered. Solar Powered is basically the opposite to the Night Person perk, gaining +2 in strength and endurance during the daytime hours. Sunlight also heals radiation and heals over time. Fun idea. I think the name could have been more fun like Vampire and Daywalker for the two perks, but that's a nitpick. I don't think it's as fun as Night Person, so B tier. Should I stop doing these interludes? I kinda wanted to break up the video a little bit just because it's a lot of the same otherwise, and I don't know if this is the right call. Let me know if it is, and if not, too bad, the video has already been edited and posted. Maybe in the next one though. Cap Collector. With how god-awfully the economy in Fallout 4 is tuned, every perk that modifies caps is basically pointless. This one at least allows you to sell more to vendors, but caps stop being an issue in most playthroughs very early. There are plenty of other perks worth your time before this one. Honestly, could have done so much better with this perk. F tier. Lady Killer and Black Widow. Linear increase to damage and persuasion chance to the opposite sex, but with a bit of flavor. With how this is currently implemented, I do think it's a bit weird and not really worth the points. With the dialogue system being extremely limited and damage scaling being very strange, I could put this no higher than F tier. Lone Wanderer. I love the idea of rewarding the player for being a loner, and I love that the Lone Wanderer perk still works even if you have a dog with you. The idea of being a lone wanderer in the wasteland is a classic. At max level, this will give you the buffs of taking 30% less damage, 100% more carry weight, dealing 25% more damage, and gaining 25 more action points. So it is a big buff. It is a bit boring though, right? It doesn't offer the player anything new to actually roleplay as a loner. It just makes you harder to kill when you are alone, to compensate for not having a companion with you. C tier. Attack Dog. A perfect complement to Lone Wanderer, Attack Dog will make your dog's ability to hold targets more useful, making VATS shots easier, causing crippling, bleeding, and even reducing the damage the player receives by 10%. Now, do I think this is actually doing a whole lot? Not really. If you have a VATS build, it can be pretty cool, but I just don't think it changes the game very much. C tier.
Nothing to do. Pairs up with the neutron for a cocktail or two. Atomic kisses, survived by a few. They had a nuclear blast. Said electron to...
Local Leader. I hate this perk. Getting off supply lines and settlement shops. Boring, no substance, still required to unlock for most players. Cut tier. Party Boy, Party Girl. Party Boy / Girl makes you immune from becoming addicted to alcohol, doubles its effects, and will increase your luck by 3 while under the influence. I'm sure there is a build potential and even some roleplay potential, but I don't think Fallout 4 can really accommodate it fully. C tier. Inspirational. Inspirational makes your companions a bit stronger and a bit tougher and a bit harder to kill. F tier. Wasteland Whisperer. Wasteland Whisperer does a lot at max level, giving you the ability to pacify animals, command them to attack, and even give them specific commands. I do think this is a good perk, maybe even a great perk. I also think this could have been a base player ability and has too high of requirements. Still, it changes what the player can do by quite a lot. For now, let's put it in A tier. Intimidation. This is exactly the same as Wasteland Whisperer, but instead of animals, it works on humans. Intimidation lets you pacify humans, command them to attack, and even give them specific command. This can be a very powerful perk. Can't help but wish it was expanded a bit more, but it is what it is. I do think it's a good perk though. A tier. Alright, for this interlude, I want to talk a bit about what exactly I would do to all the perks on like a base level to make them up, I think, 100 times better. All I would do is get rid of all the requirements for the perk, right? And instead, I would make it to where there are 10 levels of every perk, and the level is dependent on how much you have in that special. So if it's a strength perk and you have 10 strength, then you have the tier 10 of all the perks that you have unlocked. You don't have to unlock like them 10 times, it's just based on the amount of strength you have. I think that would make every perk in this entire game so much better, and I don't know why they've never done this. So frustrating. Alright, back to the video. Vans. Vans adds a path in VATS for the player to follow to their quest target. This can be helpful for players that struggle in buildings to find their way through a level. It does rely on the janky pathfinding of the creation engine though, so it's prone to breaking. Still, I think it's a good perk. A tier. Medic. Medic is another linear increase perk, and it's basically just a replacement for medicine skill. At its max power, this perk is crazy, by the way. Stimpaks and Radaway heal 100% of your health and radiation respectively. Crazy. Anyways, should have been a skill tier. Gun Nut. Gun Nut just allows you access to more gun mods. Cut tier. Hacker. Replaces the hacking skill and allows access to higher and higher computer locks. Should have been a skill tier. Scrapper. Scrapper lets you get more from scrapping items. A bit of flavor, but a little underpowered. It does also give you the ability to highlight favorited components. Not a ton going on here though. C tier. Science. Science simply gives you access to higher tech mods. Cut tier. Chemist. A linear boost to how long chems last. Chemist at its max level makes chems last 200% longer. A bit of a nothing perk. F tier. Robotics Expert. Robotics Expert is basically Intimidate but for robots. One of the better perks of the game. At its max level, the player can hack robots, turn them on and off, initiate a self-destruct, incite them to attack, and give specific commands. A very cool perk and very useful. S tier. Nuclear Physicist. Nuclear Physicist gives a buff to both radiation weapons and to fusion core power. The fusion core part makes sense, but the boost to radiation weapons are close to useless, as most creatures will be immune to the effects. This perk also lets you use fusion cores as grenades, but it's not very cost effective. C tier. Nerd Rage. If health drops below 20%, you gain 40 damage resistance and do 40% more damage. And kills heal a bit of health. Reminds me of a well-known angry green nerd. I do like the spice of this perk though, and it's a bit of a classic. Doesn't really change how much you actually play by any meaningful way, so C tier. Interlude. So, I wanted to bring up Fallout New Austin once again so that it sticks in your brain a little bit, and tell you a little bit about what I am thinking about doing with their perks. So for all the ones that I have decided to cut or put in the cut tier, we're actually going to make brand new perks for all of those ones. And then for all of the ones that should have been a skill, we're getting rid of those as well, and we are making those back into skills. I know, who would have guessed? These skills won't be like the ones that you saw in Fallout New Vegas. Instead, they'll be more like Skyrim's, where the more you use something, the higher the skill goes. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I've always wanted that kind of skill system in a Fallout though. Rather than just adding points to whatever you want, it's the more you use it, the better you are at it. You know, like real life. Alright, back to the video. Gunslinger. Gunslinger is basically the small arms skill of Fallout 3 and part of the guns skill of Fallout New Vegas. Should have been a skill tier. Commander. Commander is another part of the gun skill, but for automatic rifles. Should have been a skill tier. Sneak. Sneak does what the sneak skill of Fallout New Vegas did. Should have been a skill tier. Mr. Sandman. Mr. Sandman allows you to instantly kill any sleeping person, along with boosting sneak attack damage. I like the ability to instantly kill any sleeping person, but that's all this perk really does. I honestly don't know what else it could be made to do to make it better though. Maybe it would be better to simply remove this perk and make it a base ability. F tier. Action Boy / Action Girl. Action Person is just another linear increase perk that will increase your action regeneration rate by 75%. So boring, and honestly, just what ability should it be anyways? F tier. Moving Target. Moving Target. While sprinting, you get plus 50 damage resistance, plus 50 energy resistance with Moving Target, and sprinting costs 50% less. The flavor of this is pretty fun, but there is no way this perk is going to be meaningfully changing how you play the game. C tier. Ninja. Ninja is just yet another linear increase perk that increases the amount of sneak damage for both melee and ranged. 3.5 times for ranged and 10x for melee. I am honestly so sick of perks like this. These are only needed in the game because the game has shitty health and damage balancing. F tier. Quick Hands. With max level of Quick Hands, you will be able to reload all weapons quicker, reload for free in VATS, and gain an additional 10 action points. This requires level 40 to get an extra 10 action points? What the fuck? Don't get this. That's such a waste. With 8 agility, you will have 140 action points. Just get another perk in agility instead. Also, C tier. That's only because it has a decent flavor. Blitz. This perk is absolutely broken. Blitz is meant to act as a distance-cutting perk. Think about how monks play in D&D. It is a cool idea, but this perk basically lets you teleport through windows and doors and walls. It's kinda crazy. This will absolutely change how the player will play, and it's actually really fun to play with. Honestly, name it something like Blink and give a little flashy animation and I would have no issue with it. I do think that rather than having a requirement of 9 agility, just increase the distance you can blink with every point in agility, making it more meaningful. There is a second effect from Blitz that also increases the amount of damage you do the further the distance is. Also, a pretty cool idea. I don't think any Fallout 4 perk is perfect, but this one is definitely one of the best. S tier. Gun Fu. Gun Fu is the better example of being a quick draw sharpshooter. What it does is increase damage by 25% to your second target, by 50% for your third, and an instant critical for your fourth and beyond. This would be great for a build that optimizes action points, doing quick pans from enemy to enemy. Pretty fun, and it'll change how you play by quite a lot. A tier. We are getting close to the end, and this will be the last interlude. So, I just want to remind you once again that if you have gotten this far, you'll probably like the stuff that I make in the future, right? So, how about this time I ask for a little subscription to my channel. It's free. You have like 80 subscribed channels already. What's one more? Just do the little button thing and make my day. Alright, back to the video. Fortune Finder. Just increases the amount of caps that the player will find. Fortune Finder is an F tier perk. Scrounger. Similar to Fortune Finder giving the player more caps, Scrounger gives the player more ammunition. Not a very interesting perk at all. F tier. Bloody Mess. A class of perk that may cause enemies to burst into a bunch of chunks. You also get a plus 15% damage boost as well as possibly making nearby enemies also explode. It's a fun perk to get, but it's not something you could rely on. If the chance of explosion was tied to the player's luck, it would be a much better perk. B tier. Mysterious Stranger. Another classic. Mysterious Stranger gives you a chance to be helped by the Mysterious Stranger in VATS. The Mysterious Stranger can one-shot, I think, anything. Each level of this perk doesn't increase the chance the Mysterious Stranger will visit, but will give a higher and higher chance that a Mysterious Stranger's kill will fill the player's critical meter. Of course, I think it would be better if this perk increased the chance of a visit based on how much luck you have, but it's still a pretty good perk. We'll say B tier. Idiot Savant. So, weirdly enough, Idiot Savant is probably the closest to how I would design a perk. What it does is add a chance to give 5 times experience for any actions and a chance to gain 3 times experience on kills for a time period. The chance actually increases based on how low your intelligence is. Such a good idea. I would also have it increase with each level of luck and remove the 5 luck requirement. Fun idea, great perk. I do wish there was more of a reason to play a low intelligence character though. A tier. Better Criticals. Better Criticals just increase your critical damage linearly up to 2.5 times. F tier. Critical Banker. Critical Banker lets you save up to 4 critical hits to later be used in VATS. Side note, I think not having random criticals based on your luck score is such a loss. As for this perk, it's fine. C tier. Grim Reaper Sprint. With Grim Reaper Sprint, you can get a 35% chance to fill your critical meter. I really like this one, especially for a build that centers around VATS usage. Save up 4 criticals and enter a room, and you'll most likely be able to clear a room entirely at VATS if you spend your time to build up your criticals. Fun perk? I'd make the same changes as I always say. High C tier, low B tier. We will put it in B tier. 4-leaf clover. With 4-leaf clover, you get an excellent chance to fill your critical meter. Wait, is this just a better Grim Reaper Sprint? How much is an excellent chance? More than 35%? Less? Why doesn't this one just give you a number value? This one is a better perk, as in it's stronger, but I actually think it's a lamer perk. It also makes Grim Reaper Sprint less valuable. With the god-awful health rebalancing of this game, it's probably more worth it to get this one. Still though, F tier. Ricochet. Ricochet adds a chance that an enemy shot will ricochet back and kill them, with a chance that will fill your critical meter. It's weird that this requires level 10 luck. I don't think this one is at all worth it, or well designed. Just a bit boring. F tier. Alright, that is my ranking for all the perks in Fallout 4 based on our criteria of what actually makes a good perk. This isn't about how powerful you can make your character in Fallout 4, this is more about talking about the perks and if they're actually worthwhile perks on a game design level. Hopefully that kind of comes across, and in the future I do want to talk about how I would change these perks and how I'd make them better. Thinking about things that would better the design rather than actually making them more powerful though. Anyways, thanks for watching and I hope you enjoyed. If you have, remember to like, comment, subscribe, do all that weird shit that the YouTube algorithm wants you to do. And in the future, look out for the next video in this series, which I'll probably call something like what I would do for the Fallout 5 perks or Fallout 5 perks, something like that, some words of those combinations. Sounds good? I think so. Alrighty, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.